I'm just worried that as we lift it, there's just going to be a lot of...
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hobby here. In this episode, we're going to focus on getting the cab back on the frame. In the previous episode, y'all saw me take the front clip off and get the firewall painted and cleaned up. In this episode, what I'm working on right now is I'm working on getting everything on the frame painted. There are some steering components and the body bushings all have to be cleaned up. So I'll just throw some pictures up right now, like a before and after of what I'm doing. I think y'all have seen enough of me spray painting. So in the next few clips, what I'll be working on tomorrow and I'll record is where the body bushings go. There's 3 different types, and you know exactly where I lift and jack the cab up from. I basically take the seats out, I bolt some ratchet straps on in there, and I lift it up from the inside, and then I'll show you all how I'm going to slide the frame under. Okay guys, so this is what I have figured out for the body bushing so far. I've been looking at this energy suspension instruction sheet for part numbers. I'll take a good picture of it and throw it up on the screen right now. But basically you have 3 different types of these body mount metal pieces right here. So you have these tall ones, which are going to go in the absolute back corner of your cab. They're basically just the way the body's set up, that you need the taller ones back there. You can tell they're taller just by setting them up next to each other. And then these flanges on them, it's hard to hold these up straight, but these little flanges sticking off of them are a lot taller on these too. So you can tell them apart very easily without looking at them too much. And then depending on if you have a standard cab or a regular cab, not a standard cab, an extended cab, you may have 2 or 4 of these. I have an extended cab, so I have 4 of these, but these are kind of the mounts that go on the front and the middle of your cab. They just go in the middle. You can tell at the top, I know it's kind of dark, but at the top these are all notched, and these 4 all have the same notches, so you can tell which ones they are. And then at the very front here we have, I guess these are for the core, the radiator supports. These are shorter, and then they also have a different notch than the other 6, so I can tell that these 2 are the 2 that go at the front. And then I have all my bushings laid out here. The actual bushing themselves are also different lengths. You can tell this one in the back significantly taller than this one. They have part numbers on them at the top, right there, 4077. So I can just lay all these out, and it tells you which ones go where, looking at the instruction sheet. So I've got all these laid out. Alright, so the most popular way to lift the cab that I have seen is to use the bolts right here. You can take your seats out, and the bolts are pretty heavy duty, so I just reused these, and I've used some, picked up some washers from Home Depot, stacked a few of them so that way I could hold this big strap down. And so I'm running one off the front passenger seat bolt, and I'm running it back into the corner, and then on the other side I'm doing the same thing with the driver's seat. And then here, this is the bracket for the back seat on the extended cab. I'm not sure what this would look like for a regular cab, but at least for an extended cab, you know, you can use these right here. I used these spots to get them off before. It's like my first video I made. But I used the same bolt spots, but I used smaller ratchet straps. I'd used the smaller Husky 500-pound ones, and it was pretty sketchy, I'm not going to lie. So I wouldn't recommend using the smaller ratchet straps. That, and the last time I did this, I had the front clip still on, so it was a lot heavier. And I had a lift with the jack and a floor jack out there, and then the engine hoist in here. So my biggest concern this time around is, since I went with the bigger ratchet straps, these hooks are a lot bigger, and I'm kind of concerned that this bolt may not be threaded in enough, that there's not enough thread. You know, if I pull this one out here, you can tell I probably have, you know, ½ inch of thread. I'd say I have somewhere about a ½ inch of thread. So between all 4 of these, I don't know how much the cab weighs by itself. I have to assume less than 1,000 pounds. Well, I don't know, but I think this should be alright. Alright, so I'm going to start setting these bushings up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lube everything with this super lube. Basically any contact surfaces, you can see this is how the bushing slides on. So I will probably do the inside of the bushing and both contact faces of it, as well as both contact faces of this one. So what I have here is Super Lube. You can get this at Home Depot, or Harbor Freight had it in stock. It is a silicone-based PTFE grease. It's recommended to me by someone on Facebook, but if you Google it, some other stuff comes up in various forms for bushings. But it is heavy-duty dielectric food grade. And then on the back it says it's rated from -45 to 450 degrees. So this should be good to go with some polyurethane bushings. Alright, so this is how your body mounts are going to go. This is actually the top. The bigger piece is actually the top, and it's going to face down. And this part right here is what the cab's going to sit on. The frame is a little ovaled out, and these are a little more circular, so I had to put some pressure on it to get mine in. But they just pop in. And then with the second half, the top or the bottom bushing is beveled on one side, and so is the washer. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that's the side that goes down because it feels right. Whereas if I go flat side down, it doesn't kind of hold on there quite as nice. So with all that, then you're just going to take your bolt and you're going to run your bolt right up through the middle. And that should be everything that holds it together. It's just going to go just like this. Alright guys, so our current dilemma is that this thing is on the ground. Our wheels that we had sat it on are just sunk into the dirt here. So we can't actually get our engine hoist under it. So we're just going to jack it up with the floor jack. And once we get our engine hoist under it, then we should be able to get the straps through it and whatnot. And look from there. Alright, so we just jacked it up in the front here and slid a cinder block and some wood under it. And then I jacked it up in the back to level it out. And we were able to get our hoist under there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these straps. And I went to Harbor Freight and I got some chain links, whatever these are called. And we're just going to slide the straps through these and lift it from there.
Be a matter of like teeter-tottering it. Well, how do we do this?
Same way. Well, last time we had the jack on the front. What I might try is instead of going to the back seat bolts, I might just use the 4 bolts and go straight across over the center console instead of... Alright y'all, so this is actually day 2 of trying to get the cab on the frame. I'm going to throw in a few clips of what we did yesterday, but we were running into some issues and things were starting to get a little sketchy, so we decided we were just going to stop for the night and reevaluate. I'll play a few of the clips back though so y'all can learn from our mistakes and kind of get an idea of how this cab's going to react when you try to jack it up. Alright, so the problem we ran into yesterday is when we tried jacking this, it up with the hoist, was that we were nose heavy. The cab kept going forward, so what we tried doing this time is we threw some weights in the back to try to counterbalance it, and we got about 90 pounds back there. Now it's actually back heavy, just pretty interesting. We're going to keep jacking this up and seeing if we can maybe move those weights around to level this out.
Well, let's see. Oh, it's not.
Well, you got me at 32.
Just lift. Pull you off that ramp.
Yeah. Alright, straighten out.
No, go on in some. Remember, we gotta get the whole back end in.
Holy shit.
Slow.
We good?
Yeah, just...
You guys got kind of straight.
We're clear, just gotta turn that, whenever you get in, turn the tire a little bit.
Alright, yeah, go slow. I don't want to smack that cinder block.
No, that we definitely don't want to smack the center
Hey, hold on. Move that piece of wood out, Kyle.
block.
I'll just go slow. It's really only an inch or two.
No, I'll look at it from back here.
We barely on this cinder block though. We got it.
Slowly bump to the right. Alright, well right there is...
Get some tension on it. We'll try to basically, we'll get some tension off the back side. We'll drop the jock stands down and then we'll come to the front side. Got it? Yep.
Let me pull one of these plates out.
Alright, Kyle, come here.
Kyle, you just took a lot of weight off this side.
I'm gonna let it down slowly, alright? Y'all just hold it where you got it and we're gonna try and set it on the body mount. Crack it now.
Alright, it needs to come out to the driver's side.
Hey, how's it?
Woo!
Jay, how's front look?
Alright y'all, so a lot just happened there. So I'm just gonna kind of recap what we did. If you're pulling this off of another truck, you still got the frame underneath. What worked for us is we ran our bolts, our straps across in an X here on the seat, and then we were able to stick our engine hoist in here. Now when you pull it up without any kind of seats or anything in here, when it's stripped out like this, it's gonna be front heavy. So what we did is we put some steel plates about 90 pounds in the back, and we're able to kind of counterbalance it and keep it level by hand. If you're trying to take it off that way, that should work. And then once you are able to get it clear of the frame, you pick it up high enough, you can slide some 4x4s under the body and get some jack stands on either side. You may have to set the jack stands up on some cinder blocks or something, but once you get this high enough, you can just roll your frame out from underneath. And I believe that's pretty much the same thing we did in episode 1. This one's probably just a little bit better edited. And then you'll have seen, I wouldn't recommend doing this with one person. You're definitely going to need some help. I was able to get 2 people to help me. We lowered it, and while I lowered it on the engine hoist, they were holding it and pushing it over the body mounts to help line it up. And then we had one guy going around, or my dad actually, and we had him threading a bolt into the body mounts so that way the cab was lined up. So what I have so far is I have just the top half of the body mounts on so far, and then the bolt going through. I'm about to go through and unscrew all the bolts. The cab shouldn't move, and I'm gonna start sticking the bottom half of the body bushings on and get everything torqued up. Alright, so with the body on and the bushings all lined up, I'm going to take the bolts out that we used to line them up with, and I'm going to put the bottom bushing on, and then I'm going to put some red Loctite on the bolts. I looked around online on the forums, did some Googling. I couldn't find any hard torque specs on what these are supposed to be like. A lot of people were saying stuff, just their body mounts, just tighten down, good and tight, this and that. I'd rather just make sure I put them to a all decent torque specs. So I found a range of 44 to about 65, seems like a fair bit. I'm going to split that in the middle. I'm going to do 55 foot-pounds all the way around with some Loctite, and hopefully our cab doesn't move. Alright y'all, I think that about does the video for me. Some afterthoughts for the video. I'm definitely glad this part is done. This is a huge milestone. The truck is starting to look like a truck again. I'm way excited about that, to kind of see what it all looks like coming together with the white, the black, and the red. This is definitely the most sketchy part of the build. Getting that cab up in the air. I was kind of dreading this part, but I'm glad it's done. You know, it's a big milestone. It was a huge hurdle to overcome. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing this with only one by yourself. You're definitely going to need an extra hand. The more hands you have, the better. Jack up by those bolts in the seats, and then just kind of counterbalance. And if you watch my first video, you can kind of tell we left the front clip on. And so if you watched the first video, what we did is we lifted the cab up with the hoist. We got those 4x4s under it, and then in the front, we still had the front clip attached. So we jacked it up with the floor jack and then set that on some cinder blocks, and then we just rolled the frame out. So, you know, maybe this helps some of y'all trying to get your cab off. Some other things, some other notes that I have going on right now. I'm waiting on my engine to come back from the machine shop. Today is Saturday. He said it'd be ready to pick up someday this upcoming week. So hopefully I'll have that back here soon. I ended up not getting any footage or anything. I've had finals with school. I got a new job starting soon, so I'm like way too busy for all that. So I just told him build the motor. We ended up doing some forged internals, forged crank, stock crank, forged connecting rods, forged pistons, and we bored the engine over a little bit, got it all machined. He's gonna deliver it, or I'm gonna pick it up from him fully painted. Basically the fully assembled long block with the heads on and everything. So that engine should be pretty much ready to drop in. I'll have to bolt up and mount all my accessories. We'll probably do a video on that, maybe some light painting, and then dropping that in. I just ordered all my fuel components. I'm doing dual Aeromotive Stealth 340 liters per hour. Fuel pumps will be running dual 340 fuel pumps. I got all my AN8 hoses coming in, my regulator and my fuel filters. So the next thing is probably going to be getting the cooling and the fuel system set up. That way when we drop this motor in, we can test fire it, because I have the Holley Terminator harness. So getting this motor ready to run and set up should just be fuel, cooling, and the harness. So that'll kind of be my next priority. And then once I have a running engine here, I'll start looking at some other things. Like I'll start working on getting the body panels and stuff back on. I'll start working on the brakes, transmission cooler. I'll have to clean up the transmission at some point as well. But that's all down the road. But anyways, thanks for watching. As always, if you guys found this entertaining, comment, tell me what you thought about the video. If you're doing something similar, tell me what you're working on. Subscribe. It helps my channel grow, helps YouTube think I'm awesome, and then it, I don't know, it's just a little motivation. So I would appreciate that. And Habdi out.